monitor so everybody can see this. And I'm sorry you're not going to be able to read all the small print, but there was a lot of words. These guys had a lot to say, both of them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So last week we talked about the objective and the subjective, and even if you've taken Science of Mind 100 classes, you would have gone over it, the Ernest Holmes version. And it's always good to go over it because I find that even when I illustrate, I use it again because there are kind of nuances between them. So I'm hoping to make this clearer for you so that it's not going to be a painful thing when you think about the subjective and the objective. Basically, I'm comparing Thomas Troward, his philosophy and his framework for the subjective and the objective to Ernest Holmes. And it's been said that, and Reverend John corrected me, Ernest Holmes himself didn't say it, but it's been said that Ernest Holmes has taken about 25% of what's in the Science of Mind text. And that kind of is from the outline of Thomas Troward. But as you look at this, my perception is it's more than that. So you'll be the judge for yourselves. So I think it's helpful to have a visual, because when people think about the objective and the subjective, it's kind of an amorphous thing. And the diagrams and the charts in the back of the textbook, the Science of Mind textbook, are very good, except that I find this to be a little bit different, and it helps me to kind of get a better feeling about where I am in God and how I partake in God. And so you will see that I have God. That's not all of God, obviously. I have God there, the greater God, the Spirit, the whole divine mind. And then it's broken up into two aspects, which are the two aspects that both Troward and Holmes thought of as both the objective and the subjective. And so, in my mind, and I could be wrong, the objective seems to be not quite as spacious as the objective is not as spacious as the subjective, because there seems to be so much more described in the subjective. So I kind of put it the way that I understood it. And so here you see a picture of representation of God, and then there you are. Okay, that you can identify that as yourself, this little circle here. And the reason why I like it for myself this way is because it really shows how we share in both the objective and the subjective, that is the universal. So both men, both philosophers, considered the two aspects of God to be the objective and the subjective. And each one also thought of it as us partaking of both aspects of God, us being all, and as you hear us talking, we have all the aspects of God within us. That's kind of a physical representation of that. And what we have is the individual objective. So this partakes of the objective universal, which is the greater whole of the objective. And this is the part of you that is your individual subjective, which is your individual consciousness, if you want to think of it that way. So, and that's why we say we share in both the love and the law. So I'm going to compare the two. And what I'm going to do is go according to this chart, because this list is, I think, helpful. And you'll see how many things in common they have in describing both aspects of God. So under the objective mind, you'll see, and I have the similarities pointed out first. Under the objective mind, we have the thinker under Troward, and the thinker under Holmes. And then there's the self-knowing aspect of God, which is here in Troward, and the self-knowing is here. And the conscious in Troward is comparable to the self-consciousness principle. So the wording can be a little bit different, but the concepts are the same. And then over here, under Thomas Troward, this is all part of the universal objective. Under Troward, there is thought, and then there's thought over here, or the word. I compare the two because the thought and the word are both the idea of God. personality is over here, which means our individual personality, but all the personal characteristics of God. So our love, our peace, are individualized to us. However, they come from the universal love and peace that is God's. So we kind of call those or activate those within ourselves when we do treatments and when we set our intentions.
The objective, under objective mind, is the thought in the word like of the limited concept of understanding, like the thought in the word, or?
Well,
in a
that's a
sense?
good question. And what it seems to be, the thought in the word can be the limited thought in the limited word, but, and this is where I'm not sure about the two of them. I know that Ernest Holmes believes in truth as the universal truth, the principle, the ideal. I haven't found it in Thomas Troward, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Reverend John, if it's in Troward. But, so that would be not the limited thought, that would be truth
Just
would be the
universal,
divine
because it's
principle.
more, all right,
Right.
all right,
And I think it's the thought process too.
okay.
Okay. So, then there's personality, thank you for that. Then there's personality here, and personality over here. So you'll see that I've underlined the ones that are similar, that are the same concepts, and then we'll look at the ones that are not similar. There's the personal over here under Troward, and there's personal over here as well. Anyway, right there, okay. And then the way that Thomas Troward describes this concept, he says, under own control, means like having a will, having the will, personal will. So that would be under our own control, it's under its own control. And this is related to, remember last week we were talking about hypnotism and how the will influences the subjective. This is what he's talking about there. It's the will of either the hypnotist or the person themselves planting something into the subconscious, the subjective. Okay, is that making sense? Okay. And the will is the will over here as well. Then there's the director over here, which is the director of thought, okay? And the director over here, which is the will. I call it the will over here. And it has the same meaning for both. The will of Ernest Holmes has the same properties or concept as the director, at least the way I understand it. And then there's deductive reasoning, and deductive reasoning over here on both. Now what you'll see underneath, we're still staying with the objective. So this is the universal objective. Now, we all partake of those qualities of God from our individualized selves, okay? So we have access to all of these attributes of God. What both of them say, which is really interesting, which helps me understand how I create, is that inductive reasoning is both, for each of them, under the individual objective. Can you go the difference between deductive and inductive? Deductive, sure. Deductive flows from concept to fruition. So you start